Hello, welcome to another episode of Drinking with Comics. I'm Sean, and this is New Comic Book Day and a beer. Except today, I'm not going to be drinking a beer. My neighbor Vince brought me from his travels to Michigan a 3-pack of Traverse City Whiskey Company's whiskeys. Now, I'm not a huge whiskey drinker. On occasion, there's a time and a place. And I will say recently for St. Patrick's Day, I do an annual, I watch State of Grace, which is a movie from 1990. Directed by Phil Jeannot, with Sean Penn, Gary Oldman, Ed Harris, and Robin Wright. One of my favorite movies of all time. Watch it every St. Patrick's Day. Usually drink some Bushmills and some Guinness with it. This year I drank Jameson, and I really enjoyed it. And so when Vince gave this to me recently, it's like, you know what? Yeah, there's 3 in here. So there's Traverse City Whiskey Company straight bourbon whiskey. There's also their American Cherry Edition. That's bourbon whiskey infused with Traverse City cherries. Michigan is big cherry country. And Traverse City Whiskey Company North Coast Rye. Going to go very light on this. I've got a long writing session ahead of me, and I need to have my brains screwed on properly for that. The way that I drink whiskey, rocks glass, 1 or 2 ice cubes. That's 4 half ice cubes, so it's about 2. Break the seal on this here. The funny thing is, whiskey always reminds me of being 18. Actually, probably younger than that. So I'm just doing like a finger and a half of this. And of course, I got my water back. So I'm going to grease the wheels with that first. Now, the ice, to me, whiskey is a lot of heat right here. So the ice does 2 things. It counteracts that a little bit, but also it adds just a little bit of water. Now, when I was a bartender in Chicago 20 years ago, I know I had a lot of customers that were older, 50s, 60s. They'd come in. It was a social thing for them. It was a social bar. And they would get a tall glass, like a highball glass, couple ice cubes, and then let's say they'd want 3 fingers of scotch or whiskey and the rest water. And to me, if you put that much water in whiskey or scotch, it just dilutes the taste, but also it does something to it where I just don't care for the taste at that point. By diluting it, to me, it ruins the taste. And I asked one guy one time, I said, Bob, why do you do that? What does the water give you? And he just said, time. And I thought about it for years and didn't get it. And then I got it. So it adds a little bit of time as well. I don't have nearly the palate for whiskey that I do for beer. And I mean, I'm by no means an expert with beer either, but I drink a lot more of it and I read about it, so I know more. Whiskey or bourbon, I'm not like that. There was something about holding the glass of a couple fingers, though. Listen to the ice clink around. All right, let's get into the comics. So I didn't do last week's poll. It was small, and man, there was a book in it I just really want to talk shit about. I don't like talking shit. A lot of people on the internet talk shit, so I don't want to do that. But I am going to give you an honest assessment of that book today. But first, we're going to start with. So it is going to be a blend of last week's poll and this week's poll. Before that, I just want to say, I want to raise a glass. Okay. R.I.P. Ed Piscor. Okay, this week, X-Men 33 came out. So this continues to follow the House of X. This is Jerry Duggan still at the helm. I can't say a bad thing about Jerry Duggan. I will tell you that this whole end of Krakoa era, Fall of X, is ruining the X titles so that when I look and see I have an X book, even if it's one of the good ones in my poll that week, I kind of roll my eyes. I'm just the distaste is growing after last week. So I enjoyed this issue. It was pretty cool. We got to see Wolverine kick a bunch of ass in the Morlock tunnels. Nothing we haven't seen before, but it's a nostalgia trigger. I liked that. I like the way they're back to referring to him as the Wolverine. Even Emma Frost is calling him that. More of Shadowcat as a ninja. And we get the Reavers, which was kind of interesting. We get Sebastian and Shinobi Shaw. We get the Victor Von Doom's X-Men from Latveria, which somebody in here called the New Mutants. I thought was interesting. All in all, it's a fine issue. I mean, but it's just mired down by what is happening in other books. I'm going to talk about them right now. This is last week's Rise of the House of X or Rise of the Powers of X. This is one of the worst comics I've ever read in my life. I don't want to give Kieran Gillen shit directly. I don't know what the editorial bullpen edict is on this at this time, but this book was just bullshit. I mean, it starts out with young Moira McTaggart. You know, she's like 8 or something, however old she is, but she's got the mind of having lived 10 lifetimes. And so she's very lucid, very cognizant of everything. And Charles is there to kill her, and there's supposed to be this whole tension because he's holding the gun at her and he's not going to back down, and the stakes are high. It's like he won't relent at all, and then he just does. And it was just such bullshit. This book is just garbage. I'm sorry. I just hate it so fucking much. And I just can't wait to be done with this. I actually thought these were running, the Rise and Fall were running 4 issues. They're running 5. I just can't wait to be. I'm sticking it out. I know I'm complaining. I'm sticking it out because I've come this fucking far. I'm just gonna see it through. But man, I can't hate a comic more than I hate this one. I just hate it. Back to this week, Void Rivals #8. This book is fantastic. This is just what I've talked about hobby shop sci-fi in the past. This is what this book is. It's bathed in purple, which really evokes to me that post 1986 animated movie Transformers cartoon, which they're drawing on. But there was always so much purple and dark blue in that, and this book is just bathed in it. And they're setting up some interesting, what looks like some weird familial relationships between some of the characters. And I just, it's hard to talk about beyond that, other than like there's a trade, and I guess this is the third. If this is 8, I'm assuming the trade is 5 issues. So there's a trade and 8 issues on this, or 3 other issues on the stand to get current. If you're reading the other Energon Universe books and you're not reading this, I just think that it's a great original entry into that. So I'm totally down with it. It's Void Rivals #8. Last week and this week, big thing. So we had this week the One Hand #3 by Ram V, Lawrence Campbell, Lou Lowridge, Adita Bikanar, and Tom Muller. I'm sure I butchered at least one of those names, but this is, we're pinioning back and forth between the One Hand, which follows Detective Ari Nasser, and the Six Fingers, which follows the Six Finger Killer, we think. Dan Waters and Sumit Kumar Lulu and the same team do Six Fingers, and they're just fantastic. This neo-noir world, we're in the city Novena. It's 2873, I believe, is the year. And man, there's a lot of Frank Miller in here too, like good Frank Miller, 80s Frank Miller. There's just an element of the way that they tell the world they've built in the future. You can see the influence that from things like Dark Knight Returns and Ronin. And man, I just like these series so much. And yeah, so the 1-2 punch of last week, Six Fingers #2, and this week the One Hand #3, fantastic. Really enjoyed. I actually reread before recording. I reread everything so far. So I started at One Hand #1 and then worked through the new issue, and it's like a half-hour time commitment, and they're just fantastic. I really like them. And then lastly, last week, Newburn ended, #16, and it didn't do what I thought it was going to do, and I liked it. I expected just a blaze of glory, and that was not really what this was. And so it subverted my expectations, and I was very surprised at how it did that. So yeah, this was pretty cool. This is all going to be collected. I guess, in 3 trades. I'm sure 2 of them are out now. This is one of those books, you don't see this on the shelf very much. I think this was just kind of going right into pull lists at shops. This is definitely worth seeking out. You could probably read it digitally, get the trades. If you like street level crime, if you like Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, which I didn't read, but my co-host Mike Schinnebarger is a big fan. This is Chip Zdarsky, and it's Jacob Phillips, Sean Phillips' son, doing the art, and it was just really, really good. Zdarsky said at the end of this, I thought this was cool. Newburn was a love letter to TV procedurals and detective novels. Hate mysteries where the good guy always figures it out. Newburn wasn't a good guy, was he? But I still rooted for him, and I hope you did as well. I won't read the whole thing, but I like that. And that's how it felt. It was a throwback, although I would say a more elegant story than what I associate with those TV procedurals, because I haven't watched them in years, but I'm thinking back to the 80s and stuff, and I can see some of that in there. But you go back and watch some of those shows from the 80s, like Wise Guy, it's got its moments, but it's not really that elegant. And this was elegant. I really enjoyed Newburn from start to finish. I want to do a reread soon. So that was the pull. This is the whiskey. This is Drinking with Comics, New Comic Book Day and a Beer. I'm Sean, and see you next week. Woo-hoo. Hi, I'm Sean. Join me and my friends every week for the Horror Vision, where we talk about horror movies.